So let me start by saying I'm not sure what to call this show. Is it the brother's Sun or the brother's son? Because they pronounce their surname differently in the series.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
Huh.
Whenever they're in Taiwan, people say Sun. And then when they're in LA, people say Sun. But I guess either one works, right?
Yeah, I guess it works.
This is the Goggler Podcast, Bahir and Uma with you, and we are a bit late to this, only because we had a lot of shows and movies to watch in the new year. But here we are reviewing The Brother's Son, which is the brand new Netflix drop starring Academy Award winner Michelle Yeoh. I'm not sure when they made this, but it feels like Michelle Yeoh has kind of fallen into a typecasting situation, right?
Mm.
In that a lot of the movies and TV shows that have come out recently doesn't require her to stretch her ability too much. So when I'm watching this, and not that it's a bad thing, she's still incredible in this, but I feel like this is a performance that Michelle Yeoh can do in her sleep. This is her playing Ipo Chinese auntie.
Yeah.
And there are two renditions of this, right? There is either Ipo Chinese auntie who can kick ass, or Ipo Chinese auntie who's a tiger mom. In this one, she is the latter. They don't get her to do any of the cool kung fu stuff that she's known for, but it just feels like a role that she can easily slip into. I think the performances of Michelle Yeoh that I enjoy the most are the ones when she's doing something different. And most recently, at least for me, those would be Star Trek Discovery and Last Christmas, believe it or not.
That's a strange one, okay.
Where she's the shop owner, but it's really kind of a comedic role for her.
Yeah, I get that.
And it's something she doesn't often get cast in, and it's something she doesn't often do. And even though the movie wasn't great, I have to say that I did enjoy her in it because she was doing something different.
I mean, I completely agree with you with regards to this one. It's completely familiar to any Malaysian growing up, I think, because it's the idea of not just the tiger mom Chinese auntie, but just the mannerisms of just a Chinese auntie. It's very familiar. If we don't have one, we know of someone who has got one. I agree with you in that seeing Michelle Yeoh do things that are out of the ordinary is very, very fun. I think her turn in the Star Trek TV shows have been great. I'm still waiting for that. What was her department called?
Oh, the Black Badges.
The Black Badges. Yeah, the special Star Trek force, whatever, right? I think that to me would still be the thing I'm looking forward to.
Apparently it's still happening. I just don't think it's a series anymore. I think it may be a spin-off movie. If only because I don't think Michelle Yeoh has time for a series anymore.
That's true, I guess.
I think she's in big demand. So
I think she's busy now. Yeah. Despite us making it sound as if Michelle Yeoh can do this job very easily, which she did, it's still a very good show, The Brother's Son.
Oh, I totally agree. The Brother's Son was such a blast, and I think it's the first Netflix show since The Diplomat that I wanted to binge through. As I finished one episode, I was like, put on the next one, let's go. The story kind of follows a very typical Hong Kong style action flick, the kind of stuff that we used to watch growing up.
Yeah.
Justin Chen plays Charles' son. He is the heir to the empire, the Triad Empire. His father gets attacked in Taiwan. He's shot and in a coma. And his father's last words before he passes out are his mom's name. And the understanding among his triad right hand is that Charles needs to go to America where his brother and mom are hiding out and protect them. We don't know why, but his mom is apparently the key to everything.
That reason for her being the key I thought was fantastic. I thought the reason for Michelle Yeoh's Mama Son being the sort of reason for peace within the warring opposing triads of Taiwan was a fantastic little bit of writing, I thought.
Yeah.
But they never tell you why, and I'm not going to say anything. But they don't tell you until, I think, not the final episode, but maybe episode 6 of an 8 series or episode 7 of an 8 series. So it's very far along where nobody knows why she is the peacekeeper amongst the triads until Eileen Sun reveals it late on in the show. And I thought that was fantastic writing for us to be invested in this situation, but not have it feel like we're being strung along for this big reveal later on.
I think both the brothers, Justin Chen and Sam Song Lee, as Charles and Bruce Sun, I think both of them are absolutely fantastic.
Is it just me, or like did you just keep seeing Ronnie Chang when Bruce Sun was on screen?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so it's not just
He
me.
is a spitting image of Ronnie Cheng. They're very different brothers, obviously. Charles has grown up under the shadow of his father, and he is a trained killer. He is the best of the best. All of the triads fear him. His brother Bruce, being raised in America, wants to do improv theater, while his mom is pressuring him to get the best grade so he can go to medical school. It is a story that we are all well aware of. We experience it here all the time. If we have cousins who go to Australia for a better education, apparently, and then end up being surfers, we laugh at them and mock them. The both of them take on these roles incredibly well. It doesn't come off as stereotypical or cliched. And I think what's interesting and what the writers do really, really well is build that relationship up across these 8 episodes. And it feels real and natural. And there is this conflict between the both of them. With Charles, it's this conflict of duty and tradition and how it plays up against the love he has for his mom and brother and his commitment to family. Like, what does that mean? Does commitment to family mean the triad, or does it mean these two individuals? And then for Bruce, he's learning about these traditions and he's this reluctant partner in what's going on. He understands that his family has certain things they have to do, but he keeps thinking they can just escape it all and live happy, peaceful lives together.
It's also a very interesting dynamic with regards to how a person is brought up within the triads in Taiwan and brought up in the relative comforts of 21st century Los Angeles. I found the writing refreshing in that there was a real commitment to that particular backstory. Bruce Sun never suddenly is able to shoot a gun or kick faces. Charles Sun, right until the very end, is grappling with this idea of real familial love and actually dutiful love, right?
Even at the end, and I don't think this is a spoiler, but even at the end, it's not like he suddenly develops a heart of gold.
Yeah.
It's a conflict that still exists, and that feels very real because it's not something you're going to suddenly develop overnight when you've spent a lifetime being brought up in a certain way.
Because we've seen that easy out at the end of a lot of films. He's suddenly given up his murderous ways and becomes whatever, right? It's the problem with the ending of Dexter. What this show does is it sort of really shows you that characters need to be more than just have an ending. They need to have not just character growth, but constant evolution after the show has ended. And we see that completely in this.
And writing and character aside, there's also some tremendous action sequences. I think all of the fight sequences are choreographed incredibly well. They're thrilling, they're exciting. Justin Chen seems like he knows what he's doing. I don't know how much of it was stuntmen and how much of it was him, but it's all really good. The other thing the creators don't do is they don't get Michelle Yeoh as the Kung Fu auntie. So I know you're expecting her at certain moments to actually jump out of her chair and kick some ass, but Michelle Yeoh's character just uses her mind.
Yeah.
She uses her words. She uses the Chinese auntie network. All of that stuff comes into play, which actually works towards why she is the chosen one and why the triads respect her and fear her.
But also, that's an interesting thing from the show creator's point of view, right? You have Michelle Yeoh. If you know Michelle Yeoh, you know her as the kick-ass Chinese lady from a Bond film or from an old Hong Kong movie with Jackie Chan, right? I think to have her in this and not be kicking ass is a really, what's the word I'm looking for? It's daring, but they pull it off really, really well. Also because it works with her character. Eileen Sun comes from a well-to-do family. It had always been a black mark on her family that she went and essentially got together with this head of this triad.
There were plenty of interesting decisions on the part of the writers. And I also think that this is a tremendous way to tell a female driven story through the point of view of men, but have it slowly subvert itself as every episode unfolds. Because you think it's one thing going into it, and by the time you end episode 8, it becomes something completely different.
This show changed multiple times in my watching of it.
And I thought that was very clever, really fantastic. I thought it still stays rooted within those Hong Kong, Taiwan movie tropes. There are plenty of references to classic Hong Kong films. There's a great moment where Charles talks about two triad guys going down and they're called Samo and Hung. And I was like, hey, that's great. I love that.
That's cute.
Also, the fight sequence he refers to at the dockyards is from a Sammo Hung movie as well, which is fantastic.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
You can tell that these guys grew up watching those movies and, you know, have their pop culture references kind of steeped in it. And they've really found a way to kind of adapt it, modify it, bring in the American influences as well, and create the show that feels really, really well-rounded.
Did it feel to you like a show for Asian Americans in Los Angeles? In the sense that they built this show for people like Bruce Sun in real life. Not in an alienating sort of way, but there were bits about how Bruce Sun's best friend isn't Taiwanese, he's Korean, you know, but to a white guy, they're just all Oriental. But within their own self, there's you want to go down to Chinatown? You want to go do a meeting at that place? Oh, that's controlled by the Korean gang.
I wouldn't say that it was a show made for Asian Americans, but I think it was a show that felt it didn't need to explain itself to anyone.
Right.
And so it was made within its own culture, and it was made using those cultural references, but not feeling the need to whiten it up in any way. Like, we got those references because I think we grew up with the same sort of influences, but also the same sort of cultural divisions.
But it's also just that there isn't the token white guy who has to have everything explained to him.
No, absolutely.
Also because that role feels like he's being played by Bruce Sun himself.
Also, when I was watching the show, the thing that kind of took me aback was this realization that in an American show, an average American show, I don't think you would hear dialogue with the kind of references to weight and appearance as much as you get in this show. It's an interesting thing because I think it's a very unique cultural reference and it says a lot more than you've just gotten fat.
Yeah.
The fact that Charles was referred to as fatty growing up.
Yes.
As well.
Yeah.
I think all of these cultural references feel real and authentic. And I think a lot of the times they get written out of scripts for fear of a reaction or a modern reaction to it.
I don't know. I just feel like this show did a lot of those things very, very well. I think what you're repeating with regards to how it was shot and how it looks and how it sort of is reminiscent of a lot of early 90s Asian cinema is fantastic. I think the way that they don't dumb it down for a white audience is fantastic. And there's a real growth with regards to not just the characters, but the way the story evolves over 8 episodes. It starts off very much like a gangster and or triad style series, but then quickly shifts a little to, you know, those shows where they're on the run and they have to protect one another kind of thing, you know, because Charles' son is now in LA and he has to protect his mother because the mother is being threatened by this new evil force, and Bruce is trying to go to school, but then there are assassins showing up at the club where they're hanging out. It shifts in tone and shifts in just almost genre type while not being jarring from episode to episode.
But for me, this is the kind of Asian show that I would like to see when it's made by Americans, if that makes sense. In that a lot of the time when Hollywood takes something, it feels like it needs it to speak to as wide an audience as possible.
Yeah.
And I think what Byron Wu and Brad Falchuk have done is that they've made a show for themselves first. And then by making it the best possible show they can, it appeals automatically to a wide audience.
Yeah, yeah.
This isn't a series that is made thinking about that global reach. This is a series that was made because these guys love these stories and had a good story to tell themselves. And it's reflected even in the jokes that they tell. Even the jokes are inside jokes. There are layers to these jokes, and you will get some of those on a superficial level. You will get other jokes if you've seen Hong Kong and Taiwan movies, and you will get yet other jokes if you're aware of Asian culture and the interactions between mothers and sons, or Asian mothers and Asian sons.
But it all works even on a superficial level, even if you don't know any of those things. Yeah, you're right.
That's what I think is so clever about this. And kudos to Netflix for allowing them to do that. I think the end result speaks for itself. The Brother Son feels like, it's so rare, but The Brother Son doesn't feel like a cash grab diversity play.
Yeah.
It feels like something that deserves to carry that label.
It also feels like a story worth telling.
It's a lot like Beef for me, because Beef felt authentic. As I was watching it, I thought to myself, oh, yes, this feels like it's an Asian show from an Asian perspective with these Asian characters. And yes, I had some nitpicks with that as well, because obviously these were Asian characters in an American setting. And I think we spoke about it in our review. But yes, I did have some nitpicks about that and where I thought the story could have gone. But for the most part, it still felt very real and authentic. And The Brother Son does feel like that. Like, I hate using the word authentic, but it's only because I can't think of another word to explain what this felt like to me as I was watching it. I was taken back to all of those Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung movies I used to love, watching the Jet Li stuff, the Aces Go Places stuff, all of that stuff. That's how I felt growing up. That's what this feels like to me.
I almost feel like it shouldn't be classified as an action comedy drama, because having comedy there almost downplays the action and drama portions of this show, which is a lot stronger, which is a lot more apparent in the series, and it's a lot more satisfying than just calling it an action comedy.
You say that, but the comedy stuff is pretty funny.
Oh no, I don't disagree. I think the comedy stuff is funny.
It's quite out there, but it's pretty funny, especially when there are fucking ninjas in dinosaur outfits attacking a kid's birthday party. I think, like, wow, this is cool. It's fun.
Also, incredibly violent. We haven't said it yet, but incredibly violent.
In the best
very
possible
bloody.
way.
In the best possible way. You never feel sad when a villain gets his hand stabbed through a wooden chopping block and or a head in a little handbag. It's well done in a way that is fun, right? Here's the thing. It's the opposite of visceral. It is very graphic, but you don't really feel it as an audience member because it's
violent and it's bloody, but it feels very Jackie Chan-esque.
Yeah.
In that all of the fight sequences are quite creative and interesting and fun to watch. I think that goes a long way in making it palatable. So it doesn't feel like Statham in The Beekeeper.
Correct.
Which has that visceral reaction.
Yes, because there's almost emotion attached to those, right? Here it's just literally a faceless villain coming up against our heroes and getting murdered brutally and deliciously.
So basically, watch The Brother Son if you haven't already. If you have seen it, and I know a lot of you have, tell us what you think. I'm glad that on our comments on Instagram, you've been holding back. You've just been like, hey, watch it. Now we've seen it. We've seen all of it. Share your comments. Share your reactions. You know how to reach out. Goggler MY, all of our social media feeds. You can also email us on podcast@goggler.my or send us a WhatsApp on the Goggler hotline, 012-524-5208. Thank you so much for listening. This is the Goggler Podcast.